we're going to be looking at top 5 biggest risers in all of Dynasty over the last 30 days per keep, trade, cut, based on their analytics. We're going to go over those 5 players. We're going to go over the player values. We're going to go over the changes. We're going to go over recent trades and what to do, or just globally go over it so you can make your own decision. But before we do this, before we cover the market on these 5 players, you need to click that subscribe button right now, because I'm going to be here helping you build your Dynasty Fantasy Football team all season long. I'm going to help you with your rookie drafts. We're going to have a ton of rookie draft content all off season long. Before the draft, during draft season, after the draft, it's all going to be here. Click that button. Stop missing out. This is per keep, trade, cut. The number 1 mover is Jordan Love. Per their analytics, I did not pick these 5 players. They were just listed there. I saw them on the side, and I was like, hey, this could be some content. Let's do some digging. And we got Jordan Love to start things off. The biggest riser in all of fantasy football over the last 30 days is this guy right here. And we're looking at him right now. Looking at the charts, you can see right before December, the player values was not there, and then we start creeping up. We start yodeling up the board, if you know about the Price is Right. I feel like when we look at his statistics and what he did all year, it took some time for the market to realize Jordan Love's more than likely here to stay, and it's time to put up the value, and it came up real quick. You can see there was a drop, but that value came up real quick. It was very sharp. And then looking at the adjacent players, very expensive right now compared to the other quarterbacks. Justin Herbert, Jalen Hurts, Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Brock Purdy. They got them listed as a QB9 in their value rankings. However, you may have it different. You may like Trevor Lawrence better. You may like Kyler Murray better. You may like him better than Herbert, Richardson, or Hurts. Let me know in the comments below. But honestly, gauging the market here, I can definitely tell you he's expensive. A lot more expensive than what he was going into the season. Value overall adjacent players, Breece Hall, Jahmyr Gibbs, right above him. Christian McCaffrey, Garrett Wilson, Sam Laporta right below him. So if you have Jordan Love and you're in a 2QB Superflex league and you're good at quarterback and you want to get a top-tier wide receiver or running back, you might be able to make that push. You're not too far off. A Jabroni and Jordan Love might get it done. Probably not in a lot of leagues, but you're going to have to take a look. That's if you want to. If you want to buy, you should have did that like 6 to 8 months ago. This is definitely not the time to buy. If you're going to get him, startup drafts is your best way to get him right now. I look at him as a guy you're loving to have on your roster, and he's a chip you can move. He's a chip you can enjoy because he's going to be on this team. He's going to be productive and super flex. He's going to hold a lot of value. And really depends on your league and how quarterbacks are liquid in your league. Do they get held over a barrel? Are they fluid? What's going on with the position in your league? And that's up to you to figure that out. But his value's up right now. He's a top 10 quarterback per their value. That being said, that could be in your league, could be not. He could not be hitting this type of market in your league. He could be underpriced, and you might be able to pick him up at a much reduced cost. You got to figure that out by kicking those managers in the shin. But looking at the points per game from week 11 to week 18, that is when the gusto happened. That is when the value started to increase, and it went up immensely. He was being productive periodically throughout the season. We have some QB2 weeks, but very few down weeks throughout the season. A 6.8 game in week 5, a 13-pointer in week 14. That's the next worst. But honestly, over 15 fantasy points on every game but 2. That's pretty stellar. He's got a lot of young, good wide receivers. It looks like he's here to stay. It looks like it. At the worst, maybe a little bit more volatile compared to the back end of the season. But looks like he's here to stay. Looks like he's going to be consistent. And that being said, you got to make a move one way or another at him. And they got good young wide receivers, like I said. Dontavian Wicks showing up. Jaden Reed, like we said, was going to have a big season. With him having a big season, that means Jordan Love could have some upside, and that started to happen. Romeo Doubs up and down. Christian Watson, the injured wide receiver that we wish could tap into his upside more often, especially compared to last season. But Bo Melton as well, that's not listed here. They got a lot of young talent. They're not going anywhere. And if they do, they're probably going to find more young wide receivers. He seems like a safer asset. They're talking about getting him a bigger contract. Once that happens, he's going to stabilize in value. If you like him, you're going to have to pay up and make the move. If you don't like him and you got him, maybe now's the time to kick the tires. That's all in your preference and what you want to do. But looking at some recent trades here, these are all 2 QB Superflex. Jordan Love, round 1, 2025, round 2, 2025, round 1, 2026. 2 firsts and a second, but they're all in the future. Jordan Love and Marquise Brown for Tua and Kyron. So we got 2 quarterbacks and Kyron coming back. You got Marquise Brown, but the wide receiver position is also going to get pretty diluted here in the near future. Marquise Brown, not a young pup anymore. So very interesting trade. Do you think Jordan Love plus Marquise Brown can get you Kyron and Tua in your league? Jordan Love versus a second in 2024, a first in 2025, plus some bidding dollars. You're going to get some weird stuff in some of these trades. So a first and 2 seconds sounds like a decent trade depending on where that 2025 picks is going to be. If it's early, might be a good deal on the other side, but getting a quarterback in Superflex, especially if the liquidity is tight, Jordan Love is going to be a slam dunk with that one, with a 2025 first. The 2 seconds, I get it, it's liquidity, I get it, those are picks you can use, but Jordan Love's going to hold value more than that over the next year and a half. We got Jordan Love down here at the bottom, Zach Charbonnet, Greg Dulcich, 2 seconds. Tua, Tony Pollard, and Dallas Goedert. There's a lot going on with this deal. And Tony Pollard, we're waiting on to see what he's going to be doing this offseason. Dallas Goedert, a tight end. And then Tua, we got like a quarterback for quarterback. There's a lot on the Jordan Love side. It's a big deal. A lot's going to happen depending on what goes on with Tony Pollard with this deal. The value there. Right now, though, you got Zach Charbonnet sharing the backfield, a young running back. Greg Dulcich, a tight end in the works, and 2 picks coming back at you in 2024 with a deep wide receiver class. Give me those picks and see what I can do with them. Tony Pollard, a big question mark. Zach Charbonnet is going to get a percentage of that production, if not eat it. And in Dallas Goedert, could be the deal breaker, but you're getting 2 seconds coming back at you. You can always buy a tight end if you need it. Going on to our next player, it's Bo Melton, like we talked about earlier. The second biggest riser in Dynasty Fantasy Football per keep trade cut over the last 30 days. And the reason why is he came out of nothing. In the last few weeks of the season, sparked up, and now he's got some value here. And you can see that with the value adjacent players at wide receiver around Greg Dortch, Sky Moore, Xavier Hutchinson, Darius Slayton, Josh Reynolds. So again, it didn't shoot up to the moon, but it shoot up from nothing to something. And then value over all players, Greg Dortch, a late third in 2026. So again, he's a chip. He's a guy that's on the back end of your roster, taxi squad, wherever you're going to have him at, that you're hoping hits later down the road. A cheap, speculative asset. That's an asset that's just sitting there, more than likely going to do nothing, but you're hoping somewhere down the line that there's an opportunity for this asset to go nuclear or have a large rise in value. A late third in 2026. You're waiting for that. Or you can sell that pick, or you can sell into that range to get liquidity for the future. You got that decision to make. Overall, though, really depends on the roster size. Really depends on how big your waivers are. Really depends on what's coming at you. And if someone's willing to make the move, considering we're now into draft season, picks are getting more valuable by the day. We keep talking up these young wide receivers in this class. You may not be able to get a move with Melton, and it may stalemate on you. But those are some options for you. But he was productive over the last bit of the season when he was getting opportunity. Even with those 9-point games and 12-point games, he was getting a good target share and some air yards, getting some volume popping on the spreadsheets, which is good to see. 73 air yards in week 16, 112 in week 17, 61 in week 18, because he's got speed to burn. 4.3 speed, 5'11", 189 pounds. But there's a lot of competition in this offense. This is Jaden Reed's offense. We also got Dobbs. We got Christian Watson. We got Wicks. There's a lot of competition here. If injuries hit or something happens, maybe he'll get another opportunity. But again, when you're looking at what he did this year on the back nine, you're looking at his athleticism here, and you're in a deep league. You got room for a roster spot here for a guy like this. Sure, go ahead, rock with it. Go ahead. But now we're looking at Zamir White, the third biggest riser here per keep trade cut, per their analytics, not per me. I did not make this up. I talked about Zamir White about a couple weeks ago. We went over his values, but they're making me do it again. If it was up to me, I would not be covering the same player multiple times unless they were really hitting on the algorithm. That's my truth there. Dynasty value-wise, you see the spike, and we know why. His value changed drastically over the last few weeks because he was productive. Josh Jacobs' contract is in flux this offseason, but look at the adjacent values here. Roschon Johnson, Aaron Jones, Joe Mixon, James Conner, Jerome Ford. Productive running backs. Some of them are older. Roschon Johnson, we're still waiting to see what can happen with him over the long term. Overall players, Pat Freiermuth, Dallas Goedert, Daniel Jones. That being said, his value's up there, but he's more like a gamble chip because if Josh Jacobs leaves, that's going to go up a little bit to some degree. Maybe like RB 25 range, 28-ish range, maybe a little bit more. Maybe hover the same, but be more liquid on the high end. It's going to change when Josh Jacobs leaves or if he leaves. If for some reason Josh Jacobs stays, he's going to drop. He's going to drop. He is a gamble. You look at this team and you're saying, well, look what Zamir White did. Look at him be productive. And why pay Josh Jacobs the bag when you can get this out of him? And you know what? That's true. That's true. But you know what? NFL teams do NFL things, and I'm not here to predict or do anything with that. But I can tell you what the market's going to do when one thing happens or another thing happens. I'm going to tell you both those scenarios. If he gets signed, he's dropping. If he goes, he's rising a bit, if not being more liquid at the higher end. That being said, Zamir White's a hot piece. Do you want him? Are you stashing him? More than likely, he's on a roster. He should be on a roster. He's being stashed right now. It's going to be hard to trade. He's going to be a hard piece to move. The thing about people talking about trades about a player like this or any other player, they're harder to move than what's advertised unless their value actually super skyrocketed and you can funnel them back. Zamir White's value went up. You can probably make a move if you wanted to, but a lot of people are either not willing to make the deal if you're trying to buy, or if you have them, you got something out of nothing and you're trying to see if it comes out to be a little bit more. Looking at the size of just athleticism, he gives you something that Josh Jacobs can't, and that's size-adjusted speed in the 90th some percentile. You want that with your running backs. We also seen him be productive. They call him Zeus for Christ's sake, and Josh Jacobs could be gone, more than likely gone, but could be back. Could be back because he was back this year when he was testing the market. We're going to test the market again. He'll be 26 years old. Could be back, but he's going to be expensive. We got to see what happens with Josh Jacobs, but if he's back, there's going to be a big change. And you're going to have to play that gamble one way or the other, and that's how it's going to be. And this is how other people are gambling here. The second trade down, trade 3, the first one was just too crazy to even mention. Zamir White, Xavier Hutchinson for Quentin Johnston. Interesting deal here. The thing about this, wide receivers are starting to get diluted a bit. It's going to be really diluted in value with terms of this 2024 draft class. But if you like Johnston or a player in that range, cool, that could be your pivot piece. And then you got Zamir White, Brian Robinson for Sam Howell, and Jameson Williams. This is a 1 QB league. I double-checked that. seems like a great value to get 2 running backs, especially if you need running backs. I think that's a great one. This was on January 20th, so fairly recent. Zamir White, a second and fourth, got you Mike Williams. Mike Williams, who's an aging asset. All assets are aging in this world of Dynasty Fantasy Football, but you're getting a first coming back at you in 2025 and a fifth. So value-wise, say if Josh Jacobs leaves, Zamir White is there and say sucks, you still got the opportunity to sell out and still get an increase there. That 2025 fifth, though, that's liquidity on the high end. It really depends on what these teams are looking at. So if it's a high end first, you're probably going to want that more. You're probably going to want a high end first. If you think it's going to be a high end first, that's what you're going to want. You're not going to care about Mike Williams. You're not going to care about that fifth. But you're thinking that's a high end first, top 3 or so, something like that. You're going to want that. If it's a middle of the road back end, you're questioning it on the front end, though. You got a fifth coming back. You're getting rid of a second. That's a big push there. And then looking down below, Jordan Addison's and Zamir White's, fourth, Garrett Wilson in a first. So he can be a bridge to get you that stud wide receiver that you want. I'm not saying Garrett Wilson. I'm saying that star wide receiver that you want. Him, plus another good player, plus some jabroni picks, plus whatever else. However you can be creative with it. I'm talking in broad terms, and I am with all these deals. He could be that bridge that helps you get to that stud wide receiver that you want, and we want to collect stud wide receivers. If that case is Garrett Wilson or somebody else around that spectrum, go ahead and do what you want. That is an idea for you. 2025 first, Zamir White, to get you into the first round of 2024. 2024 is locked and loaded at quarterback and wide receiver this year. That should get you back some value. And then you're out of the gamble just in case Josh Jacobs comes back. This 2024 running back class isn't that great, so it's hard to imagine a landmine, but that could happen. You're out of that headache, and you're into this class, which a lot of people like, and look for those picks to gain value, and you can probably sell those, take the player you want, move up. You got a lot of movability in the 2024 class. That might give you 2 firsts in this year's class. Maybe that allows you to move up enough to get you one of those wide receivers that you like. But now we're talking about Breece Hall. Big time riser over the last 30 days. And again, I did not pick these guys. This is from Keep Trade Cut, from their algorithm. And here we go on the Dynasty value. And it looks like he's been playing well. We know this. He's been productive. You put the stamp on things in the back 9 of the season, and people realize, hey, we don't need to be scared of the knee anymore. And the market said, yep, let's press that button. Let's get us some Breece Hall. The value jumped up. It should have jumped a little bit earlier. I think the market was late on this. That's what I'm reading here. The market was being very cautious, and that gives you an idea when a stud running back or a very good running back or wide receiver or any player has an injury like this, you start seeing the trickle effects of that player coming back and they're looking good. You may want to pounce soon just in case something like this happens. It's not going to always happen in your leagues. A lot of people don't trade like that. They're not like the macro market, but your micro market will surprise you from time to time, and the more shins you kick, the more shins you're going to bruise. And that being said, value adjacent overall players here. Bijan, 2024 early first. We're talking like Marvin Harrison Jr., super flex. We're talking like a Drake May. We're talking about those top tier players. Jahmyr Gibbs, Jordan Love, Christian McCaffrey, Malik Neighbors. Any of those top tier players, you can have them. I like Breece Hall, though. He's one of the few running backs that I want. The only 3 running backs I really want in Dynasty right now, Bijan Robinson, Jahmyr Gibbs, Breece Hall. The rest of the running backs, I want cheaper than ADP, cheaper than market value. And if not, I'm going to funnel back, play money ball with them. I like Devin A-Chain. I don't hate any of the other running backs. It's just at cost, I want them a little bit cheaper because they're running backs. They're volatile from week to week, month to month. You can't 100% predict that they're going to be on the field. You can't predict the game scripts, and that matters for their production. You can't predict the values, but the top 3 guys are the only 3 running backs I want, and after that, I'm just playing money ball with the running back position. So I'm going to let you know straight up that's how I'm going to roll with it. But Breece Hall is one of the guys I am going after here in startup drafts. Trades, more than likely, it's going to be hard to get done because the value is up there, but he put the stamp on things. Last 5 weeks of the season, 4 of those last 5 weeks, RB1 weeks. Before that, we were humming. We were doing some good things, but a little bit volatile. But we put the stamp on things. 26 points in 14, 2 in week 15, 43 against Washington. That's when people started clicking that button. Then against Cleveland, 27. Week 18, there's more people that have championship games in week 18 than what you think. I know because I do content on this channel and a lot of people come to me. 29 fantasy points. That being said, the value went up during that time. Looking at some trades here. And I'm not going to go trade for trade. I'm going to say this. When you get an asset that's high up, it's just going to be some big-ass deals. It's just going to be some big-ass deals. And with a big-ass player, you got to get creative. You got to get creative. You got to start looking around. You got to start making packages. You may have to work with this one. That's what I'm saying. You may have to work with this. And whether you want to sell them and whether you want to buy them, you're going to have to put in some work with a player like this. Because when you're seeing a player like Breece Hall, a top-end running back who's up there in value, people want him, but they don't always want to pay, and they may not have the correct assets you need to get the trade done. When you're trying to buy him, you may not have the assets. When you're trying to buy him, the deal may not even happen. They may not even listen to you. That being said, you just got to be creative. You got to work the market either way. Puka Nacua. And this is a big riser. We know it's a big riser, but I figured the value would have been at the tip top prior to these 30 days. I'm talking about Christmas time till now. I figured the value would be up there, but it makes sense because the market's like, hey, you know what? We see you being productive, but we're Dynasty gamers. We know you're a late round pick. We don't trust late round picks. We need a large sample of production. Then we got the large sample of production, and we got the value in the market. Let me know what you think about this, because a lot of people are saying, yep, that's what it is, and that's what I'm paying, and I'm cool with that because I like Puka. Other people are selling. With wide receivers, I'm just trying to collect as many young wide receivers as possible. That is my main game, and my 3 favorite running backs that I just mentioned. Quarterbacks and Superflex, yeah, but I know I'm going to be held over a barrel. I'm going to have one good quarterback, and I'm probably going to moneyball the rest of them. That being said, with Puka Nacua, what are you doing here? Are you pivoting and trying to use him as a chip to get to Amon-Ra, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, or higher to Justin Jefferson, Marvin Harrison Jr., maybe even Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, A.J. Brown, Chris Olave? Or are you funneling him back to get more capital? Or are you buying him? Are you trying to catch him on the cheap? Because he's valued here, wide receiver 5, player overall 13. But you know what? In a lot of leagues, he's not up there yet. He's not up there yet. And knowing this, that might tell you that, hey, I might be able to catch him at a deal. Maybe not. Maybe so. Maybe you want to try it. Probably not going to happen. But I'm throwing things out there from a macroeconomic standpoint. Looking at the production, top tier production from week to week. We did get some down weeks overall throughout the season. Stafford had some injuries as well. That kind of impacted things. But we got some green candlesticks. We got some upside. And it really depends on what you think here. Again, I like to capture as many young wide receivers on the top end as possible. And maybe if you're good, you want to funnel back. Maybe you want to use him to get that one stud wide receiver that you like. And that could be any of those top guys. And maybe you're like, I like Puka. I like him. But him in a pick, and I'm getting my wide receiver. And we're seeing that in some of these trades. Puka, a first, and Olave. Or Olave and a first for Puka. However you want to swing that. Which one would you rather have? Puka versus Chris Olave, and you're getting a first attached to it. Other trades you're seeing, and they're big guys. They're big deals because he's a big-time player. Big-time players getting big-time deals. That being said, you got to be creative. That's why I'm not saying, hey, he's a sell or he's a buy. That's why I'm not saying that, because you got to be creative with an asset like this. He did rocket up in value. When a player rockets up in value, you do need to kick the shins of your league mates to see where they're at and see what comes back at you. That's how you can sneak away with these deals that are just windfalls from time to time, because if you're not active, that's never going to happen. And then you're catching deals here. Trey McBride, Jonnu Smith, and a third for Puka. Tight end premium, but still, I think that's a good value for Puka. Puka in a first, but you're getting Garrett Wilson. I'm coming back at you. Debo coming back at you. That's what I'm saying. Use him, something else. Get you the wide receiver you want. That young wide receiver you've been dreaming about this whole time, you could get right now. Do you want to do that? Or do you want to stay put? Or do you want to funnel back? Or do you want to buy him? Because there's a lot of roads to go here. He's expensive to buy, but maybe a little bit cheaper in your league. You can sell him for a windfall. You can use him as a pivot piece for a guy like Garrett Wilson, Justin Jefferson. It's going to cost you a little bit more for some of these guys, but there's a lot of things you can do with Puka and Nakua. What are you doing with Breece Hall? I like Breece Hall. I want him on all my teams, but I know I can't have that because you can't have everything that you want. Also, Jordan Love's hot on the market too. What do you think about that? Buy, sell, hold. What are you doing? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button because I'm watching you. I want to thank you for watching. I'll catch you on the next video.